Hey, well, tonight we're angry about the American Spring that is upcoming. And if you don't know what I'm referring to, today is the 10-year anniversary of the death of Mohammed Bouazizi. And if you don't know who he is, that is a shame. Mohammed Bouazizi kicked off what is known as the Arab Spring. Here's a picture of Mohammed Bouazizi's family mourning at his gravesite. And the reason that Mohammed Bouazizi died was because he was a fruit seller in the country of Tunisia, and prices for food were skyrocketing 10 years ago, or at least were advancing at a rate fast enough that the population could not afford to feed themselves. Mohammed Bouazizi, a fruit seller in Tunisia, as I mentioned, had his fruit stall confiscated, and because he was unable to make a living, because food had become so expensive, because his family was starving, Mohammed Bouazizi set himself on fire as a gesture of protest. And although this was a tragedy for Mohammed Bouazizi and his family, he did accomplish his goals, because within weeks, the president of Tunisia was forced to flee for his life. And this all comes down to the fact that the price of food was escalating at a faster pace than the population could afford to pay. And we are facing exactly the same situation here in America. Now, everybody has been focused recently on our income levels. Is the government sending us enough money? Do we have enough money to buy food? Are there enough jobs for people to provide for their families? And the answer is no. To all of these, the government is not sending money to people that is sufficient to provide for their families. People do not have jobs sufficient to provide for their families, and the price of everything is escalating. And 10 years ago, this caused tremendous dislocations in the Arab world, but then they were closer to subsistence level, and so an increase in food prices is going to more quickly be reflected in people starving. We have the luxury here that there is some leeway. There are food banks, certainly more so than in a country like Tunisia, but the fact that prices are rising and incomes are not only are incomes not rising, but people can't even hold on to jobs because the jobs are disappearing. People are no longer able to pay for food. People are finding that food is unaffordable for them, and this is where revolutions begin. This is the danger. It happened in Tunisia, it happened in Egypt, it happens around the world. When there is a big decrease in the value of money, and it shows up in the dramatically escalating price of food, people become desperate. First, they'll elect anybody who they think can solve the problem. Witness Hitler in the 1930s in Germany. Look at what's happening in Venezuela. Look at what's happening in Zimbabwe. These things are going to be happening here. We are creating money at a pace that is literally unbelievable. I think something like 0.5% of GDP is being created every month. The Fed is buying almost all the bonds that the government is selling. This is going to lead to hyperinflation. And what hyperinflation is just a dramatic decrease in the value of your money. Are we seeing anything like that yet? Let's take a look. This is gold, for example. Gold's at all-time highs. It's now at 2,000. Look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin is at 22,000. All of these things are denominated in dollars, and they just reflect the fact that our dollars are buying less. And it's all good and well when we can't afford a new mansion, but if we can't afford food, that's when people take to the streets and there's violence and desperation. Here's another market that may interest you. This is lumber. Lumber's gone from almost 300 to 900 this year. Lumber has tripled. As a matter of fact, in the real estate industry, home builders are actually increasing the prices of their houses to make up for the dramatic increase in the price of lumber. But my point is not so much about quality of life. My question is about the fact that if a country's standard of living drops so dramatically that the population is unable to afford food, there is no force, there's no government force that can restrain them. And there are two factors that are inhibiting our ability to buy food. First, the price of food is skyrocketing, and secondly, our incomes are dropping. Now, your income might be fine, my income might be fine, but as a group, our incomes are dropping. Incomes dropping, prices of food rising, that will give rise to an American Spring, and that's a disaster. If you look at the turmoil that took place 10 years ago in the Middle East due to the death of Mohammed Bouazizi, you can realize the risks that we take. We are nowhere ready for such a dramatic drop in our standard of living. If the price of food continues to increase, this is the one thing that can actually cause dramatic dislocations politically here. Everything's all fine and good as long as we're deciding what to watch on Netflix, but if it's a question of which one of us goes out to the dumpster to try to find food for the family, then the desperation is such that all bets are off. And we're looking at that here. Due to this reckless creation of money here in this country, the prices of things are escalating out of our reach, and soon people who are starving will be complaining. I hope you're ready. Please wake up.